Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. It is Vermivlog time. This is a series where I talk about my experiences with vermicasting. This is going to be a relatively quick update. It's been a slow month. First of all, the most exciting thing of the month is that I finally finished reading Worms Eat My Garbage, which is something I've been trying to do since I started my worm bins, and I finally finished it. There's a lot of good information in this book. If you are considering starting a worm bin of your own, I would highly suggest you buy this book and read it. I bought this off of Amazon. I don't buy books anymore. I generally only borrow books from the library, but with the COVID shutdown and this being a pretty specific book, I ordered it, and I'm kind of glad I have it. There's some good resources in the back. There's an appendix with some good information. There is a glossary with some good terms to know. There's some examples of some record keeping tools that the author used and recommended we use. So I'm glad to have this book, and I'm glad I finished reading it. There were a couple things that finally got me over the hump of finishing this book. First of all, this is not only exciting to have read this book for the fact that I'm more knowledgeable about worms, which is my current obsession and hobby, but it's also wonderful because I have not finished a book since the day Ron was born. This is the first book I have finished in almost 7 years. And I was a pretty avid book reader. I really enjoyed reading books. But once I started having children, it was a hobby I couldn't really enjoy anymore. I mean, I am definitely the kind of person that likes to block out a few hours to read at a time. I don't want to read 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. And I've just never been able to do that since having kids. So this is the first book I've read in almost 7 years. Very exciting. But it was also chock full of good knowledge about vermicasting, which, as you guys know, I'm quite obsessed with. What else has happened? I still have my 2 bins up and running. They're doing well. They seem to be growing. My 3rd bin, the green one that I ordered from Costco, is still empty. I'm not using that one at all yet. I think for next month's video, I will be doing a sift through of my very first bin, the smaller one, and I will be sorting out all of the worm castings for my garden by next month's video, and I will be starting with a fresh bin. And in doing that, I think I'm going to count how many worms I have in my original bin. I'm wondering if I still have 500. You know, in theory, my population should have doubled. So because I started with 500 worms and then split those 500 into 2, not necessarily evenly, I should have about 500 worms in the first bin and about 500 worms in the second bin. I'm really curious to see, so I am going to take the time to count out how many worms I can find while I'm sifting through the finished compost for my garden. And so that will be next month. And I have found a sifter from Amazon that I think I'm going to order to make the job slightly easier. I was not sure what system I was going to use to sort out the finished worm compost, but once I saw the sifter, I kind of knew that that was the way to go. It's $24, but if I was to buy all the parts and make my own sifter, it would probably end up being $24 anyways, and I'm not handy. I'm not interested in building my own sifter with wood and screen. So I'm just gonna buy the sifters from Amazon, and hopefully by next month, in next month's update, I will be showing you how it went with sifting through and harvesting my first round of worm fertilizer, worm compost. So I'm very excited for that. I'm looking forward to it. The other thing that I've kind of become obsessed with is a different type of worms. So the worms that I've been using all along are red wigglers. They have a scientific name that I cannot pronounce. I will write it down here, but they're commonly known as red worms or red wigglers. And I bought those worms specifically from a company called Uncle Jim's Worm Farm. But there are other types of composting worms, and there was a discussion on the Facebook group, on one of the Facebook groups that I'm a member of. I'm now a member of 3 worm Facebook groups. I joined another one in the past month, but there was a discussion kind of asking like, which worm is the best composter in your opinion? And by far, everyone unanimously agreed that the African nightcrawler is the best composting worm, and they are huge. They're big fat worms, they're long, they're really good for fishing too, if people are interested in having worms for fishing, which I am not interested in that whatsoever, but if you are, night crawlers are really good for fishing as well. But African and European night crawlers are known to be very good composters, and they're better composters than the red wigglers that I currently have. The reason red wigglers are so popular for composting is because they're very tolerant. They can tolerate a large variety of temperatures, and they're very beginner friendly. But African night crawlers require a little bit more care, and they have more specific needs as far as climate control. They like it a little bit warmer, but I feel like I'm ready for the next move. And I almost impulsively bought like a pound of African night crawlers within the last month, like 3 weeks ago. And I told myself, nope, the least you could do is finish this book before you go out and buy some more worms that you know nothing about. So I have finished the book now. I feel like I can buy the worms. I'm thinking about asking for them for a birthday present. I don't know about you guys, but I'm at the age where sometimes it's kind of hard to come up with gifts, suggestions to give to other people. If somebody's like, hey, your birthday's coming up, what would you like? Like my immediate family wants to know what I want for my birthday so that they can give me what I want. And I'm thinking about saving that for my birthday. Like, I want some African night crawlers. Will you buy me some? So that might be a birthday gift request, which wouldn't be for another like 3 months, but that's okay. And if I did buy those African night crawlers, I probably would put them in the new green Worm Hut Frogger composting bin that I bought from Costco. And hopefully they would do well in there. Is there anything else I want to tell you guys? I don't think so. I will be showing you some clips of how the bins are going. I did try to feed my new bin, the newer bin of worms, some watermelon, and it was already going bad. There was already mold on it, and I thought it was a quarter of a watermelon, not the huge watermelon, but one of these watermelons, and it was a quarter of that watermelon. And I thought, let me see if they could eat it. And it was a fail. It didn't go through. This is a spoiler for the clips you're about to see, but I did not end up feeding my worms the watermelon. After like 2 days, I took it out and put it in my compost pile because I was worried that I was creating anaerobic conditions, which is what you do not want for your worms. You want your bins to be very aerobic with lots of oxygen, and if they are aerobic, they don't smell bad, they just smell like dirt. So that was a fail. But the bins are doing well. The worms look good. I'm very curious to know how many worms I have, but I just don't know if I have it in me to count them all out. But I am going to count out what I have in the first bin as I'm sifting through it to harvest the castings from my first bin, because I do think it's ready to be harvested. That is all I have for this 10-week Vermivlog. That's hard to say, Vermivlog. And yeah, let's cut to some clips of how my bins are looking today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Hi guys. Not too many updates this month. It's going by very quickly, but I wanted to show you this quarter of a watermelon I put in my big bin. This is my newer bin that I just started last month, and I figured we could take a peek and see how it's going. I put this in this bin yesterday, and it had already been growing mold on it in the fridge, and it was looking a little rough even in the fridge. So I took it out of the fridge and put it right in here. And a couple hours later, the kitchen smelled a little bit like a rotten egg. Well, a lot like a rotten egg. So I moved the bin outside to air it out and get some fresh air, and I buried it a little bit deeper. And today it doesn't smell at all, which is amazing. So I figured I would take a peek under here and see what I can see. The white stuff you see is crushed eggshell, and the rest is shredded cardboard and some cocoa coir, some coffee grounds, and the rest is vermicompost, or vermicasting, I guess I should say. So let's take a peek and see how it's going under here. So lots of healthy worm activity at the base of the watermelon. Very exciting. They're doing their job. Good job, boys. I think I'll leave you to it. And so I just kind of make sure that the bedding is piled up around the watermelon to kind of deter any outsiders from sneaking in here for a midnight snack. And then I just kind of cover this up with a couple of egg cartons. Not that that's going to do too much good. Gives me a little peace of mind, and that's about it. And then I put my lid back up on top of it. Like that. I've never given my worms that much food at one time. That's definitely a lot, especially since splitting the bins in half. But I'm cautiously optimistic that they can handle it, and I'm checking the bins every day, and if for some reason it starts to smell bad again, I'm going to take that watermelon rind out and toss it into my compost pile, because that's a sign that it's probably too much food for the worms to process at one time. So I will check on them tomorrow, and hopefully they will be making good progress on that watermelon. Good morning, guys. It has been 24 hours since I've checked, no, not quite 24 hours, a little less than 24 hours since I've checked on my watermelon. So let's check the watermelon. I'm not seeing any additional worm activity, but I am seeing some mold activity. And I think it looks a little bit smaller than it did yesterday. It doesn't smell great, but I'm assuming the smell is coming specifically from the watermelon, not from the bin. I'm going to give it another day and see what the worms can do with it. Check back tomorrow. Hi guys, so here is my large worm bin, and as you can see, there is no watermelon left in this worm bin. Because I removed it and I put it in my compost pile around the corner, I chickened out. Basically on day 3 I went to go check on the watermelon again, and I didn't see a lot of worms around it, and I felt like it was smelling worse instead of better. And I just thought, you know what, it's a cool experiment to see if they could polish off a quarter of a watermelon, but not worth killing them or ruining my bin. And there was some hot days coming, and I really needed to bring the bins inside for climate control, and I didn't want a really stinky bin inside the kitchen. So I chucked the watermelon in the compost pile, and The bin has been looking great ever since. I also added quite a bit more paper on top, so all of that beautiful color is the paper I added on top. And if I rake back that top layer, you will be able to see what the bin is currently looking like. There's a worm right there. Hey, buddy. I buried a little bit of food in here a few days ago. There's an apple core and some watermelon rinds down here. Just a fraction of, look at all those mites. Some cute little baby worms though. So yeah, no more watermelon experiment, just back to little bits. So it's definitely a slow month for my worm bins, but there should be a lot of exciting things happening by next month's update. Okay, so this is my little bin right here. This is the one that I think I will be sorting the black gold, aka worm poop, out of in the next couple weeks. I think this bin has a lot of vermicompost, and it's time to give them some fresh bedding. There is still some shredded paper on top, but underneath this top layer is mostly processed products. So I think I'm going to leave this bin alone for the next week or so, not add anything to it, and then start my process of sifting through my first bin for the black gold. But what I wanted to show you was one sign of a healthy worm bin is that the worms are kind of evenly distributed throughout the bin. They're not all clumped up in a corner. So I haven't touched this bin since yesterday, so I figured we could take a quick dig through and see if we can find worms throughout this bin and looking happy and healthy. So let's do that right now. There's some. So many worms. Lots of worms there. Lots of worms there. So many worms over here. There's a little cocoon right there. Yeah, so I think this bin is looking really good. All of this black here is the processed black gold. And so I will be sifting as much of that out as I can in the next couple of weeks and starting a new bin with these same worms. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.